Imagine putting on a headset and you realize you can never take it off. Yeah, that's basically what's going to happen to our main heroes in the amazing digital circus. So, this episode starts with the unhinged AI ringmaster named Kane, who acts like a children's TV host, but something is of course very off, because, and boom, our main character drops out of nowhere. She's confused, panicking, and immediately trying to take her headset off. Except she can't. Jax, instantly being toxic, says it's a new character or a new sucker. Everyone is just completely unfazed because this has happened before. Oh yeah, we've been trapped for many years. Kinger is of course not right in the head. The realization, Pomni thinks it's just a dream, which, yeah, very fair, I would think so if I put on a headset and now I realize I can't take it off. But, you know, you can't leave, so boo-hoo. And that's where things go from goofy to very, very disturbing. Kane gives her a tour of the circus, showing things off like the digital lake, the ball pits, and just random other nonsense. And also, casually, just shows her the void. More funny random chaos happens, Bubble just existing, and more of Pomni just losing her mind early on. This show really is like a fever dream at the start. This is why the pilot got like, what, 400 million views? Pomni spots what looks like a exit door, but Kane immediately panics and denies this, saying that, oh no, you didn't see anything, it's just digital hallucinations. Which is, you know, hella suspicious, because we don't trust that dude for jack shit. Pomni realizes that she can't even remember her own name, and so Kane spins a slot machine, and there comes Pomni. Anyway, on to today's adventure. Today's adventure is going to be the Gloinks, which just think of little bugs that crawl around everywhere and steal your things. Zooble immediately gets destroyed, even though she said that she didn't want to be part of this. She gets all of her limbs stolen. Jack says, oh no, anyway. Part of the intro was Kaufmo, but he was just a cardboard cutout, so I don't know, is he actually a cardboard cutout? Three of our heroes, Jax, the Ragatha, the one who is trying to keep everyone sane, and Pomni, the new person in town, are gonna go and try and meet Kaufmo before he goes insane. When they get there, oh no, he's already insane. This is what happens when someone mentally breaks in this world. They don't die, they just transform. They transform into this large, weirdly beautiful, yet also hideous monster. Pomni is of course panicking because to her, it's life or death now. Pomni is running to go find Kane, and while this was happening, Ragatha got the ever-living beaten out of her. Cut back to Jax, who ran away after stealing a bowling ball. Jax, you know, still doesn't give any shit at all. Kinger is absolutely clueless, and Gangle is just worried about her friend Kaufmo, which of course Jax the just says, he's fine. Pomni goes into this weird yellow door again, because like, she saw the first one, she didn't really get to touch it, but this one, she saw it, and she went in. And all she found was this weird, old computer. So okay. Once she goes far enough, she enters the void, and this is when Kane actually realizes that something's up, because he had a radar thing on his hand. Okay, cool, why not? Just track us some more, would you? Make us feel even more secure about the fact that you're definitely not gonna kill us all someday. Down with the Gloinks Queen, who is about to eat Zooble, Kaufmo jumps in, and he's just beating the ever-living shit out of her, and this just allows them to save Zooble. Jax, still being told, just tells everyone to be quiet while they're going up the elevator. And once Kane is finally back with Pomni into the normal world, he fixes everything, but he also just picks up Kaufmo and just throws him into a darkness pit of despair and hell, which like doesn't seem like to be suffering, but just seems to be sensory deprivation, which, you know, in my opinion kind of is hell. Final scene, everything just resets. Like, that's it. That's all that happened. Nothing more happened. This is when, you know, you see the weird creepy smile, yada yada. You get what I mean. That is the end of this video. Subscribe if you want a full recap. of the entire show, because that's what I'm working on. So I kind of don't care if you don't subscribe. Welcome to the amazing mental hospital, where everyone here needs a psychiatrist of their own, even the AI, who will eventually try and kill everyone. Anyway, starting with Pomni, who had a weird-ass nightmare about losing her mind, because everyone is perfectly okay. Ragatha knocks in her room and just says, yo, we have work to do. She's like, fine, okay, whatever. So they all go there, and Kane is like, hey, I got a new mission for y'all. You gotta go get some maple syrup back from these bandits that stole it from the Candy Kingdom. And so they're like, sure, whatever. Zubul wants to already opt out, and Kane says that the AI should be 57% more immersive, so we'll see that pretty soon. And still, Zubul wants to opt out because, I don't know, they're probably really, really lazy or something. I don't really care. Mental issues, yay. Anyway, so they go in there, the queen greets all of them, and she just gives them a monster truck, like not just a monster truck, but the type of thing you'd see in Mad Max, but just made out of candy. The second Jack sees this, he's already being a menace and he wants to be the one to drive, but the second he honks the horn and realizes it's lame as all hell, he forces Gangle to drive because he doesn't want to be driving this useless truck that isn't even that much fun. And we see 3 bandits made out of gummies, and they all look like crocodiles. To be honest, 2 of them are completely useless, and the last one is the one guy whose name you should actually remember. His name is Gummy Goo. So he and his friends stole maple syrup because apparently the village they come from really needs that maple syrup. So they're not just bad guys, they're bad guys who do good. The main crew catches up to them. Jax is having fun again because he picks up Pomni and immediately just throws it at Gummy Goo's truck. And this is just to make a bridge out of Pomni so he can blow things up with a rocket launcher he apparently has. Which doesn't work because Pomni lets go because it's literally tearing her apart. Gangle is told to ram into the truck. She, of course, doesn't want to, but Jax brings up something about Ragatha and a figurine, so that means that either Gangle is a pervert or Gangle is just a really weird, shy person, which I'm willing to go with the second one for the sake of not wanting to completely destroy all of Gangle's mass, just because I don't like what she did. So after continuously ramming the truck, they decide to activate the spikes. At this point, Jax is holding a double-barrel shotgun and still convincing Gangle to ram the truck into, the maple syrup one. Mind you, Pomni is still there, so they all fall off into a canyon with some chocolate that is replacing all the water, which if I was there, I would just drink until I got diabetes. But anyway, Pomni and Gummy Goo glitch under the map, and Gummy Goo sees himself, all his friends, in a, line of things, and he starts having a existential crisis, being confused as to who he is and why he even exists. Pomni sees that, and Pomni tells Gummy Goo that he's an NPC. He doesn't know what the hell that even means, nor does he even know what a map is, like what map they're on. He doesn't know anything. And so Gummy Goo is questioning all his memories because he knows that he can't even remember his mother's face, but he knows that he must have had a mother or something. So during this mental crisis, Pomni comes up to try and comfort him and says that, hey, why not come back with us because you're smart or something, and I also need a friend. Because Jax is an asshole, Zubul is kind of distant, Gangle's a bit weird, Ragatha is a bit too much, like a bit too in your face, Kinger's a bit crazy, and so he agrees to this. And so they go into a truck and they get some boxes and they basically glitch their way out of the entire map. And while this is happening in the chocolate canyon, we meet a monster who is completely or mostly made out of chocolate. And so Jack strikes a deal with him to bring the 2 bandits and them back up to on top of the canyon, as well as to the Candy Kingdom, and so he will unlock the gates for the monster to then completely ravish and consume everyone. But before that can happen, the truck that Pomni and Gummy Goo were in fly back in and completely destroys the monster's head. Jax is now bummed out because he didn't get to kill anyone, so they all finally go back to the main area of the circus, and Kane immediately realizes that Gummy Goo wasn't part of them, so he just ices him, and this makes Pomni big sad because no more friend. Ragatha tries to comfort Pomni, but to absolutely no avail. This also does imply that Kane can just ice them whenever he feels like. And that is basically the end of the episode, but also they held a funeral for Kaufmo, which means that they actually do care about each other somewhat, I guess? I don't know. Oh yeah, and by the way, Jack, still being an asshole, doesn't show up to his own apparent friend's funeral. Welcome to the amazing digital hell, and this time my thumbnails actually come true because our characters are gonna go to hell this time. So, start of the episode, we see everyone bunched up together next to some couches. Pomni is trying to hold her breath because they can't die of oxygen deprivation, so they're trying to figure out what happens because apparently different things happen to different people when they hold their breath. With Pomni, she gets a huge shift that gets faster and faster the longer she holds her breath. With Kinger, he starts to glow, Ragatha's hair starts to spike up, and Gangle's mask starts to spin. Zubal's limbs start to stiffen up, and we don't know what Jax does because he just refuses to tell anyone. Kane interrupts them talking to each other and just actually hanging out for once to then force upon them an adventure called The Mystery of Mildenhall Manor. They're forced to go into a haunted mansion where everyone's just like being them casual selves, not really thinking about much. When a ghost pops out and scares Pomni, her eyes just pop out and she can't get him back in. The ghost explains doors to the left and right. Doors to the left is meant for kids, and the doors to the right is meant for Zubal only. But, you know, Zubal being Zubal, they just didn't even show up to this at all. Because why not? Jax grabs Gangle's mask and throws it to the right door after sucking up the ghost in his vacuum cleaner that he stole. This of course makes Gangle sad as all hell because Jax just likes being an asshole. Kinger decides to go after it, but while also doing that he grabs onto Pomni's eyes, and so they both go into a very creepy door, and everyone else just decides to venture into the normal and calm door. After they go into these doors, Kane finds Zubal and just decides to try and talk to Zubal about why they're not even trying on going to these adventures that he apparently works so hard to make. Zubal tells him again because he apparently keeps on forgetting. Zubal hates herself. She can't find something she likes. She can't find a body that she likes. And to be honest, I just think the problem is that their ability to swap out body parts, if they just had something permanent, then they would be forced to get used to it and actually start to like it. Going to Kinger and Pomni, they get thrown into this old British style like home, and they see heads of their friends mounted on a wall, and also a giant creepy pale head thing whose eyes are unlined right, and that kind of annoys me. Kinger plays a audio tape that he sees, and we hear about a person named Baron Theodore Mildenhall, and so we can see that this is his manor that he owns. He tells us that the pale head that's been mounted on his wall, he was chasing for years, like literal years of his life, and he just says that it's a monster who he's dedicated his entire life to just hunting down for the protection of his family because he'd never get peace without it. Audio tape ends, and Kinger and Pomni find this weird elevator thing, and they realize that it's locked, so they have to go into a dark door to then find the key. Pomni goes in there, finds the key, and Kinger plays a tape that jump scares Pomni, and it explains that, like, it explains somewhat of what the monster is, and that it's hard to kill, and to never leave it out of your sight, and so that, of course, is exactly what they did, because they were forced into going into another room. So while this happens, all the lights in that room just turn off, and this is when Kinger apparently starts thinking normally. He still acts a big cuckoo, but apparently the darkness helps him. Kinger helps Pomni because apparently she doesn't like the dark, and so they go out and they see that the monster in fact is alive and is actively chasing them. The head from the wall comes off and we see its rows of shark teeth, and it scares the ever-living shit out of Pomni, and Kinger is just amazed by it. He looks into the mouth of it and he says, quote, "You look beautiful, honey." Back with Kane and Zubul, and they're talking about how Kane is definitely using his adventures to torture his people, because he says that he, just like any good war criminal, all the torment he inflicts is absolutely unintentional. Zubul decides to finally tell Kane that no one really gives a shit about his adventures because Ragatha's too nice, Jax is just fucking around, Gangle's too shy to tell her anything, Kinger's insane, and Pomni is just traumatized. Kane, after hearing this, just starts glitching everywhere, and this becomes extremely unsettling because, you know, the entire digital circus is collapsing. But then he stops himself because he goes off topic and he just goes back to the therapy session idea. Back with Pomni and Kinger, they find the dried husk of Baron Mildenhall, and they play the audio tape. Apparently got so paranoid of this monster that he shot his own wife, and so he's down here in a wine cellar with a loaded shotgun to try and protect himself and try and take down the monster because, you know, he thinks he's gonna die. Pomni goes and grabs the shotgun. She gives it to Kinger, who looks at it. It's a double-barrel shotgun and it has 2 shots. And the body of the monster comes out, and it's, of course, missing its head, while the head is also coming from the side. So now Kinger has to focus on, you know, hitting both of his shots. He does so successfully, but the audio then starts playing without them even interacting with it, and it says that apparently the monster is one of God's angels, and so anyone who has shot it will go directly into hell. He also says that he needed a living host, so the next breath they take will be their last. So after Pomni and Kinger literally get dragged into hell, we cut to Ragatha, Gangle, and Jax, who is tied up in a corner, and everyone else is just having a good tea party. They talk to the wife of Baron Mildenhall, who is just kind of calm about everything. They just have a nice tea party. And Ragatha, Gangle, and Jax just go outside because that's all they really needed to do. And Kinger just says, "Congratulations, you're done," but we kind of do have to wait for the others. Pomni is rightfully losing her mind because, like, you're literally in hell. What the fuck? This can't get worse. Kinger says that Kane would have definitely had a way to escape all of this, and so they see a quarter called the Hall of the Damned. Kinger grabs one of his eyes and just throws it out there. He says that he sees an exit. Pomni decides to rush in, and this is when she gets her entire body possessed. Kinger drags the body back into where he currently is and has to beat the demon literally out of Pomni. And the demon just says, "How's your wife, Kinger?" And so, you know, for you guys, you could just guess that Kinger had a wife who was within the circus who probably abstracted, and that's probably why he said, "You look beautiful, honey," to the angel, because that was mesmerizing to him, and that also reminded him of his wife. Pomni just continues her mental breakdown, but apparently Kinger is sane again. He decides to tell her a story about his wife, who used to really like entomology, and who also used to be part of the circus. And the day his wife abstracted is the day that I think Kane probably purposely put this on him to make sure that he stays sane because he's probably one of his favorites. So in the darkness, when he was alone with his wife, who abstracted into a monster, he found peace in that she wasn't attacking him, and also the sharp edges just calmed down in the dark. And so this is why whenever he's in the dark, he'll remember things, but he also says that he doesn't have that much power over his memories anymore. So either he has dementia, or Kane has purposely removed his memories from him to make sure that he stays sane forever, because like I said, he's probably one of his favorites. Kane figures out what they need to do, and it's just not breathe. Pomni was still having trouble with it at the start because she feels like she's gonna die. Kane just says, just try not thinking about it, and so he holds Pomni's hand and they walk out there together, and that works. So they manage to get out of hell and they meet the others. Kinger just already lost his memories because why not? Kinger says that I think Pomni was brave or whatever. Jax is still tied up, and so they're just chatting for a bit. Kinger forgot to get Gangle's mask, so he's just like, fuck. And so they go back into the main hall. Back with Kane and Zubul. Zubul is now being a therapist, and nothing has really changed except for the appearance of Bubble, so yay. Kane just says that, oh look, everyone's done, so let's just go. Jax gets untied and talks to Pomni for a bit, saying how is it like with Kinger. Pomni just says it was nice, he wasn't that crazy. And that is the end of this episode. Honestly, it was one of the hardest episodes for me to voice record just because of how many things I've had to deal with today, but I'll try not to put my mental problems on you guys. And I'm telling you all of this like I don't know anything, but I know everything because I've seen every single episode. But I'm trying to make it to where you guys who don't see what I see, I'm trying to make the recap not just spoiling every single thing because I know exactly what's going to happen and I know exactly what comes next, but I'm trying to keep the mystery alive for you guys. Right. Welcome to episode 4 of The Amazing Digital Hell. In this episode, our heroes are going to be wage slaves for fun. Episode starts off with Ragatha trying to teach Gangle how to play, I'm pretty sure it's, softball or something? I don't know, I don't pay attention. I'm pretty sure it's baseball or something. Anyway, so they're playing with Jax, and when Gangle throws the ball, that immediately breaks the mask, but apparently this time Jax did it on accident. While Ragatha and Jax are arguing like divorced parents, Zubul comes up and talks to Gangle for a sec, and she gives her a new mask, and it looks really cool actually, in my opinion. But this one is apparently made out of plastic, so it shouldn't break as easily as the one she normally has. It has this weird design where it's actually giving her eyelids, and it's also black and white. It's really cool in my opinion. Kane comes in and interrupts everyone and just saying it's time to have some fun. And in this adventure, they're doing the Curse of the Violent Psychopath Butcher. But right as he says that, Pomni is just like, hey dude, can we just fucking stop with the horror? I really hate it. And just like, fine, what do you want to do? And they say some boring shit. Kane looks into the suggestion box that he forgot they even had. They decide to have a honest day's work at Spudsy's. Just think of it as rip-off McDonald's. Gangle is made the shift manager, and Zubul is forced into going in this time because Kinger decided to volunteer to sit out this time so that then Zubul can work. I also really do like Kane's reaction to Zubul not wanting to do jack shit 4 times in a row. Jax is genuinely pissed off at this. His face is just so damn funny. But yeah, no, he just looks like he's going to burn Gangle to a crisp. I don't know what he has against just working normally, but I'm pretty sure he, more likely than not, just hated working. So once they get into Spudsy's, nothing interesting happens at the start. Jax grabs Ragatha and just throws her into oil for fun. Gangle actually pushes back against Jax, and she decides to call Kane and to just set up a punishment for them if they actually do anything wrong. And this just pisses Jax off even more. While Pomni is working the register, a doll comes up and orders the stupid burger with, just orders a plain burger with the stupid sauce. Ragatha is trying to make it, but she gets some into her eye, and this just makes her just dumb as all hell for the rest of the episode. But there also is this weird horror moment, which is where I got my thumbnail from. Ragatha basically acts like a stoner for the rest of the episode. Jax talks to Zubul and is just curious as to why she's actually doing her job, because, you know, this is probably one of the first times that Jax has actually seen her do anything. While working the register, Pomni meets Gummy Goo again, and this actually jump scares her for a bit. But it's really sad because, like, while they're ordering and while the food is getting prepared, she actually tries to talk with Gummy Goo, and, like, he doesn't even remember her name, which is just, like, sad as hell because they had this whole emotional moment. Gangle is talking to Ragatha, and she just says that Pomni is too busy flirting with Gummy Goo. So Gangle goes to manually get Pomni off of Gummy Goo's ass and also get her back to work. While she was berating Pomni, Pomni just says that can't this wait a bit because this isn't real, and this kind of pisses off Gangle, which, like, we rarely see. But she says that next you're gonna question my authority, and so we might be able to see, like, what's actually wrong with Gangle. So it might be that she can't handle any sort of actual proper power. Okay, so a thing happens to where the bathroom is apparently full of shit, and Gangle's trying to force Jax to clean it, but he just says, no, I don't really care. She just says, do it. Jax just says, no, I don't really give a shit. He also says that he likes her better when she was sad, which also just gives this great moment I can't get enough of. And so a pair of large hands grabs Jax and just throws him into a void where he's just sitting alone in a room where he's just supposed to get training from this weird-ass TV. In this, we also see that Gangle apparently wanted to focus more on manga than actual fast food, so maybe just growing up forced her to give up her dreams. So this is probably why she acts so, like, authoritarian when she has any sort of power. Back with Gangle, Zubul, and Ragatha. Ragatha's still basically stoned off of stupid sauce, and so she's barely able to get any work done. Gangle confronts her on this, and Ragatha just says that she's kind of annoying as shit when she has any sort of power. Jax finally comes back from the Goon Cave, and Gangle is slowly losing her will to live. Jax, after dealing with a lot of things and waiting until dinner time, he walks up into the register spot and he just rests on the table. He asks Pomni how she's doing, which just catches her off guard because, you know, Jax is usually an asshole, and this also does catch Pomni off guard. She cuts herself off early, and Jax is interrupted by Gangle, who just tells him that there's more work to do, and so he's off to do that. And he looks like even more pissed than normal, but he's more like he's more pissed and like he doesn't want to do anything, but he's more relaxed just when talking to Pomni than normal. When it finally became nighttime, Gangle came outside and just threw off her mask, and she's crying again. She just like is sad and angry. She also does this right in front of Pomni. Pomni and Gangle talked for a bit, and Pomni thinks that, like, hey, isn't the mask supposed to make you happy or something? Gangle basically says no. They talk for a bit, and they talk about Ragatha, saying that, like, she's kind, but after a while it's hard to tell how genuine she is. Gangle regains her composure and gets back to work. Jax finally clocks out, and he just says that this wasn't fun at all. Gangle just keeps on looking sadder and sadder. Zubul and Ragatha leave work, so it's just Gangle and Pomni working. Pomni comes up to her and talks to her for a bit, and just says that she could be the one to close for today. Pomni just helps Gangle clock out early, which makes her feel a bit better. And while Gangle is walking on the side of the road, she grabs her mask and just yeets it, which is also the first time we see her genuinely smile in her normal sad mask. And then she gets hit by a truck. After getting hit by the truck, she gets into a performance review by Kane, and he basically says that they all did fine and had fun. Later on, she's drawing alone, and Zubul comes up to her and just comforts her and just says that she's always liked her drawings, so they can go with the others and just talk for a bit. This does put a smile on Gangle's face, which is really nice to see, because you rarely see her smile at all in this entire show. And a little thing to add on before you go, search up French Gangle because her voice is actually pretty nice. Anyway, I'm off to do whatever the fuck I feel like. Welcome back to the amazing digital hell. Episode starts off with our main people coming back from a adventure, and everyone's kind of tired and just wants to laze around. Kane is talking to Zubul for a bit, and they talk about his future adventure ideas, and so Kane just forces everyone into the same spot and just gives them adventure ideas. Zubul suggests the suggestion box again because apparently she didn't hate being a wage slave. Pomni also agrees with that, and everyone else doesn't really care. So Kane decides to do a lightning round where he picks out some of the suggestions from the suggestion box and just forces everyone to do them. First suggestion box adventure is Jax, who decided to do a hunting themed one. Zubul immediately doesn't like it because she's being hunted by Jax, and so she posts a vote to skip this mission as well as to force Jax into being a vegan. Wait, hold on, isn't Kane not able to? And then he just gets cut off. Next one is Pomni as a president, and apparently this is Jax's suggestion again, and it's kind of cute to see that like he wrote everything out. He even gave Kinger his own little character card, and he gave everyone a character card, but he made Pomni the president, which means that he probably wrote this one out recently, but just decided to not give Pomni a, card to tell her what her role is, nor what she's gonna do, just to make her panic as much as possible. Then Jax bursts in with a bomb. Pomni doesn't want to deal with this, and she's getting no useful tips from any of them. And then Gangle bursts in with a bomb, like just TNT strapped to her chest, and apparently she's supposed to be a New Zealander extremist, and so she blows up. And then we go to the next adventure. Next adventure, they're out stargazing, and Pomni and Jax are talking together for a sec. Jax says that he's kind of bored because he prefers his adventures to be a bit more chaotic. He also says that, do you think Gangle is capable of being happy? Because he usually just doesn't see her smile or anything without her mask. Ragatha interrupts him and just says maybe she would be happy if, you weren't bullying her all the time. She didn't think Jax cared about what other people thought or liked. And then Jax was going to say something, but he just cuts himself off early. Then Pomni asks if Jax has any friends, and Ragatha just says not anymore. And this just makes Jax extremely pissed and just staring at Ragatha. Ragatha gets uncomfortable and just decides to walk away. When Pomni asks what that was about, Jax just says it's nothing. But he also comments that doesn't it get annoying or something, because after being told that you're loved or cared for so many times, it kind of loses all feeling and meaning. We also see them talk for a bit, and Pomni and Jax are actually starting to get along as actual friends. Kane is watching them from afar, and he's annoyed that no one's really panicking or something, so he does an intermission, and it's a really long one, but just think of it as more torture. So the next adventure is one where they're all sitting at a bar. Jax walks into a bar and orders a whiskey sour and just says, can you hold the egg whites, because he's a vegan, and he gets confused for a bit and just says, wait, hold on, I thought Kane couldn't mess with our minds. Pomni and Gangle were already in the bar, and Kinger and Ragatha come in. Ragatha orders a Cosmopolitan, and Kinger orders a Corncob Blitz. It's revealed to us that Zubul used to also be a bartender. They decide to tell each other about their stories. Jax is just telling a fake story about basically being Heisenberg. Gangle says that, she worked in fast food, but that she also went to community college for a bit. She also said that she didn't pursue art after she got a job because it kind of was eating her time. Zubul offers to make art with her. Ragatha says, hey, Zubul, I didn't know you worked on art. And she said, yeah, I was also a tattoo artist. Ragatha starts talking about her backstory and how she lived on a farm with an abusive mother. And so she went into real estate, and then after that she got put into a circus. When Zubul gives Kinger his drink, it has like an actual piece of corn on it, and Zubul notices Jax's visible flinching to it. Jax apologizes to Pomni about the presidential adventure where she got blown up. She accepts this, but he also does just make a face while also hugging Pomni in front of Ragatha, and she just looks scared. Ragatha tries to bring up a traumatic event as something comforting, but she just realizes that and cuts herself off. Zubul takes the corn from Kinger's drinks. God fuck! Zubul takes the corn from Kinger's drink and puts it in front of Jax, which just visibly upsets him. So I think he might have trypophobia. Kane says he's bored and just forces everyone to go into the next adventure. They all go into a game of softball. And so while they're playing softball, it's just the current team with evil versions of themselves except for Gangle. Zubul and Gangle try and vote to have Jax be put in a maid outfit. Pomni votes against it, and so does Jax, so I think he's starting to trust her. And Ragatha also votes in favor of it, which just allows for it to be passed, and so does Kinger. We also see that this made Jax not unreasonably upset, because I would be upset if someone forced me into a maid outfit. But now he finally has enough justification to burn down Gangle's room, so yay! Ragatha is talking to Pomni for a bit, and she's a bit frustrated how she didn't win, because she puts, the thing I realized about Ragatha is that she puts too much pressure on herself, and doesn't allow herself to kind of relax as much as she allows others to. Ragatha is talking to Pomni, and she just says that she doesn't want to be a jerk, which is why she doesn't relax sometimes. During the game, Gangle was up and she hit a home run. This made Ragatha actually smile for a bit. Pomni asks for Ragatha if she wants to go up because last time she went up she missed. Game ends because they all won. Ragatha notices Jax and Pomni actually talking to each other and having fun. Jax turns back into normal and he's not in his maid outfit again, so he rushes back into evil Jax and just starts biting the ever-living shit out of him, which makes Pomni laugh, and this also concerns Ragatha for a bit because she thinks that she's turning evil or something. We also see a character in the background. This character's name is Abel, and he will be back in a future adventure, so think about him now, but also remember him later. Like and subscribe if you want more, and leave something in the comment section. Also, where do you think this audio came from?
Suck.
Okay, sorry if my voice sounds a bit different because I am sick. Mucus fucking everywhere, so yeah. Welcome to the Amazing Character Awards, and in this video we're gonna see who is the most favorite out of everyone at the end of this episode. So this episode is just titled They Get Guns, and so episode starts off with Jax and Pomni walking together. They find Zubul up in some weird ass place, and Zubul just gets questioned on why they're hiding. Zubul says it's because they don't like Kane, and whenever they skip out, Kane just knocks on their door, and whenever they don't answer, Kane just starts singing Daisy Bell. Jax calls over Kane. They decide to have an in-house adventure. Kane says that this adventure is going to be kind of short because he wants to focus on the favorite character awards as well as giving them something to do. Kane recommends some abhorrently stupid sports that he came up out of the depths of his mind, and not many people even like that. So Zubul, after complaining that they can't trust Jax for jack shit, makes sense because, no one can. He's been known to literally throw people off of moving cars for fun. So, Kane suggests a rather elaborate trust-building exercise and gives Jax a gun. Jax, who wasn't paying any attention to this, just says, hey, what we're doing, and then Kane just shoves some information in his mind, and after realizing what he's supposed to do, he shoots Ragatha. Kane just says they're gonna do a team thing again, because why not? So, teams of 2, and they get 5 minutes to pick, and also the guns get scattered everywhere. At first, Jax wants to be in a team with Gangle, but Gangle says that they want to be in a team with Zubul. Pomni was thinking a team with Kinger, but Ragatha said that they want to do with Kinger, so that then they could keep Jax away from him. Pomni says, sure, I think I'll be able to keep Jax, the crazy idiot, under control for one day. When the timer ends, Ragatha still has a life lost from when Jax tried to ice her, and so Ragatha and Kinger are off trying to find weapons. Ragatha is a bit bummed at not having a full 3 hearts. Kinger just claps his hands and creates a monarch butterfly, and Ragatha is told to touch it, and that brings their lives back up. So with Jax and Pomni, Pomni doesn't really want to engage in the fighting, just says, I'll grab you some guns. But Jax says, no, just have fun, like you're playing this too realistically. Like, this is a game, it doesn't matter if your friends get hurt, because no one's gonna die. And so this is enough to convince Pomni to just let loose. Back with Kinger and Ragatha, Kinger gets sniped by Zubul. Jax finds a gun for himself, so now both Pomni and Jax are armed. Pomni and Jax shoot Ragatha, taking out one of her lives. Jax goes to deal with Ragatha, and Pomni tries to deal with Kinger. Jax manages to get Ragatha down to 1 life, and then they go into this, like, closed off space, and right as Jax is about to ice Ragatha, Ragatha says that she knows what he's doing and that he's trying to corrupt Pomni. He seems like genuinely confused because he just sees this shit as a game, so he's actually confused. Ragatha, after getting fully killed, gets shoved into the loser's corner. Pomni meets up with Jax and just says that Kinger got away. Zubul finds a gun for Gangle, and they also have this personal moment with Gangle saying how she feels like a toy for Jax, and how she kind of feels like she has no control over her life. But Zubul just says, dude, you're your own self basically, and you're fine. That's like the best way I can summarize it. Back with Pomni and Jax, we learn that Jax for sure has trypophobia. They find Kinger in a dark room, and they have a 2v1, but they manage to kill Kinger. So he gets shoved into the loser's corner, and he sees Ragatha, and he decides to talk to her he sees Ragatha and decides to talk to her for a bit, and at this point he's been in the darkness for sufficiently long enough point, so he's back to his normal self, and he actually has this like conversation to where just saying, Ragatha, you're trying too hard, you're doing too much for others, you're putting too much pressure on yourself, and this makes Ragatha tear up and actually smile for a bit. Cut to Gangle and Zubul, and they are running inside this weird tunnel together. They're running away from the other two. Gangle finds a Tommy gun and decides to open fire in an enclosed space. This tears down the connecting structures and makes all of them fall down. At this point, the other two have no ammo left, but they managed to find a sniper, and Pomni, who had 1 sniper round in there, takes it and headshots Gangle, which just sends her to the loser's corner. Zubul decides to retreat into her room. She attaches 2 extra arms to herself, and also finds just a stockpile of stun grenades. Pomni and Jax decide to sing Daisy Bell, and this just annoys Zubul. When they're done singing, Zubul comes out, stuns them, and takes out 2 hearts from them, so now they're both down to their last life. When Pomni is running off, Jax says, no wait, we see him actually giving like some concern to Pomni. Pomni rushes away. We see this like scene of Jax looking at Kaufmo and not really wanting to think about it anymore, and also looking at Ribbit and also just like adjusting back to normal, and then going towards Pomni. Pomni does a funny with a gun and disarms Zubul and also gets her to the ground. Pomni and Jax decide to kill Zubul. Jax and Pomni have this weird emotional moment that I'm not going to tell you most of it about because if you really care, just watch the episode. But Pomni confronts Jax on why he didn't even show up to Cosmo's funeral and says that he was scared to actually show any human emotion. Jax gets upset about this and just says, "Why are you blaming me? You didn't even know him, just like everyone else. Why are you blaming me?" And then basically he walks off. And now it is time for the award ceremony. Everyone is sitting together in the front row except for Jax, who decided to isolate himself. And right as the characters were, like, whoever won was going to be announced, Jax decides to go into the bathroom because his heart was racing and he was thinking about something. And then he comes back with an adjusted attitude, acting like he actually fully has regained his composure, but we know that no way in hell someone can adapt that fast. And that is the end of this video. I hope you guys really like this one because I hate doing things like this when I'm sick. I hate working when I'm sick. And I do this for you guys, okay? So enjoy my videos. And next episode is going to be even more eventful than this one. So, I hope you enjoy. Welcome to episode 7 of the Amazing Digital Hell. And you might be able to tell by my voice how long it's been since I just recorded, because it's been literally like 2 to 3 weeks, because I've had 1, maybe 2 mental breakdowns. So I got myself some soda and now I'm feeling a bit better. Anyway, episode starts off with Zubul hiding from Kane because they don't even want to do jack shit again like normal. Ragatha finds a note on the wall, and it's just something Kane wrote that just says, "I'm gonna go make a casserole and I need to go to the store." And Kane is reading this right next to them. And he also just says that, like, today they don't really have an adventure planned, so they could just throw a beach party if they feel like it, or just explore around, because they don't really do anything. And he does this Chinese room bit because, I don't know, for you not nerds out there, there's a theory that if AI even understands language. Anyway, so they decide to throw a beach party because why not? They haven't had time to properly relax in, like, literally so long in the entire show. You also know how much I fucking hate fillers. But surprise, surprise, this episode is not, in fact, a filler episode. So they go outside. They all, or well, most of them, go into this weird booth that changes their clothes into, like, actual beach clothes. And Zubul's the only one not wearing clothes, which just means that Zubul's always naked, which is weird. Jax is just hanging out by himself, and while Kinger, Ragatha, and Pomni were playing beach ball together, Ragatha loses her eye, like one of her eyes, and it goes into the water. Pomni swims down there, and there's just this weird bit with the voice actor of Charlie. And Pomni comes up from the water with Jax, who is currently alone by himself. Surprise, surprise, he isn't, because he just got splashed with water by Zubul. Says that, "Hey, you're an asshole and I don't like you," because Jax was just questioning him. And also, this says that, like, this is annoying to Jax because he just wanted to grovel in his own misery for a bit alone. So he just walks away because he's, you know, pissed off. Zubul is getting adjusted to their ability to change out body parts, which is pretty nice. Pomni notices Jax walking off, and she also Pomni notices Jax walking off, and she also notices Abel watching Jax. And then we go to Jax, who's just bed-rotting in his dark-ass room. We also see this picture of Ribbit, Cosmo, and Jax just hanging out together, and they're all seeming pretty happy, actually. And so Jax is just in his depressed-ass room. A weird-ass set of hands comes out to touch him, and he touches them. Which, yeah, I know it sounds weird. But then this is when he was about to extract, because they just hear this weird ass music. Anyway, he wakes up from Pomni knocking on his room, and it just makes his heart race. And he comes out the door being depressed and shit. Pomni and Ragatha are there with Abel, and they're talking for a bit, and they say that Abel knows how to get out of there, but that they need to find a way to get into the Chinese room, so they figured Jax might just have the keys they need. After a weird bit, They go into the Chinese room, and then Abel explains who he is, and he also said that he doesn't want to involve Kinger because apparently something happened between them and Kinger, and by the way, everyone is together here. Anyway, so he explains that there was a company that trapped everyone into stasis chambers, and he says that there's a place in Kane's office where if they overload that, then they'll force the stasis chambers to open, and so that is the plan. So they need to first get the master key from Kane, and by the way, Jax is extremely distrusting of this. Jax walks around, calls for Kane, and then he basically tricks him into giving the master card that is inside of him. Pomni and Ragatha are walking with Abel, and they find this like wall, and Abel goes through it into this weird room that looks like something you'd see on acid. Gangle and Zubul are talking for a bit, saying how it might be a good idea to inform Kinger about who the fuck Abel is, because they've been with him for a while. So they open Kinger's pillow fort, they just talk to him for a bit, and he says he doesn't know who the fuck Abel is. Abel gets some master keys for everyone. Abel is also being a mysterious ass bitch and not explaining why he doesn't trust Kinger. Everyone gets one of the weird hand keys or whatever. Kinger, who is given a key, goes out of his pillow fort, so his mind is already erased on who Abel even is. Abel uses some collision detection to fuck around and just get everyone inside Kane's main office place where he just resides. So they go inside Kane's office, and each of these weird spheres that are in here are individual worlds that he has created, and so everyone's just looking around at the past adventures. Jax is just longingly looking into this ball by himself, looking like he misses something from there. So this is probably when something bad happened to his friends. While they're walking towards Kane's place that is behind his cabin, because it's just weird, I'm not going to tell you anything about it, so you can just watch this episode by yourself if you really give that much of a fuck. But anyway, they all go there, and while this is happening, Jax is breathing heavily and uncomfortably. There is this large screen that just says, the red button will close the console and keep all players inside the circus, and the blue button will get everyone outside. They're debating for a bit, and they say that they want to all go out. Jax, who's having a panic attack and having some weird flashbacks, decides to run in and press the red button, and out comes Kane. And by the way, right before this happens, Jax says, wait, why'd I do that? And Kane says, congratulations, you picked the good ending. And then he picks up Abel and ices him right in front of all of them. Jax is laughing his ass off, but then gets angry because Kane lied about being able to control their minds. And also, the fact that this was an adventure means that he was purposely playing with their hearts. And so Jax is just angry as all hell, which, yeah, fair. Once Jax confronts Kane, he's confused for a sec, and then he starts getting defensive. Pomni mentions their names, and this just makes Kane say, wait, hold on. And then while Kane is panicking, he says that if he did anything more with their minds than just add temporary modifiers, and something much worse would happen. And then Kinger says Scratch, who is a character from Kinger's time, who had cancer. And he was basically abstracted because of Kane's fuckery. Kane panics and just gives them all weird lotion bottles and just tells them to have a fragrant night. And then he just says bye-bye. And this just makes him really pissed off at him. And that is the end of this video. Thanks to the power of drugs that I am able to record shit like this for you guys. Welcome to episode 8 of the amazing digital hell. And this is the first episode where we get a photosensitivity warning. So yay. So episode starts off at first with this weird scene that looks cool as shit, but I am not gonna explain because I am too lazy to give a fuck. And then we go to Kinger's time, and we see Kane with a bunch of other characters and a dog named Scratch, if you remember from the last episode. Kinger realizes that his wife is also in the circus, and it's just this brutally cold cut happens to where it's just Queenie abstracting, and Kinger is just all alone. And it's just oh my god, what the f. And when I was first watching this, I thought the exact same thing. This is why I think the whole darkness thing happened, because if you remember, his brain adjusting to the trauma, or Kane forcibly making it to where Kinger would have a hard time going crazy and abstracting because he likes him. While he's walking alone, Ragatha pops in. Then we get a cut to the present where everyone is sitting together in a couch. Everyone's just depressed or whatever. So right now everyone is talking and Zubal's rightfully mad because they think that because of Jax they're going to be stuck in here forever. But Gangle makes a great point in that it probably didn't even matter because they were going to be trapped here forever probably, and like there's too many what ifs to really make it matter. Gangle just says the best thing we could do right now is care for each other. Pomni is coming to the realization that it would be optimal to give up any hopes and dreams of leaving the circus. But it is logical because, you know, keep chasing a dream and you're gonna go insane. So the moral of the story is give up on your dreams because it's unrealistic and unattainable. Anyway, them realizing that they're all in this together. Weird couch scene, but like Jax is the only one sitting alone and everyone's sitting together. And Pomni is trying to include him, but he's still self-isolating. And when Jax starts to walk off, Zubul just says, hey, that includes you too. And this actually surprises Jax because he didn't really expect much empathy from Zubul at all. We cut to Kane in his office with Bubble, and Bubble is just not helping at all because Kane himself, the AI, is losing his shit because the humans, like, he literally slaves away to make these adventures, and if you remember, this is the only thing he considers himself good at because it's his only function. And so this weird scene where Kane has a god complex happens because he really fucking hates humans now. Kane comes up to the group and says it's adventure time, and Zubul says, no, we have questions, you dumb bitch. And while the others are also agreeing with Zubul, Kane just says, fuck you. And because the crew is just refusing to play into Kane's torturous games, he decided to put them through a montage of them just suffering being under his command, because he wants to show them that he is their god. And this makes Pomni and the others like ungodly uncomfortable, feeling so damn weak. And honestly, this is one of my more favorite songs in the entire show. Anyway, several days later of pure mental anguish, they're all really f***ing tired and don't want to deal with this anymore. So they all decide to go out of the open for a bit, and they go into this cafe that Jax has been to because he's holding a drink that him and his friends used to all enjoy together. And in this shot, you see that Jax just sits one seat away from everyone, showing that he is just purposely distancing himself because he doesn't want to get emotional enough to abstract, but he also doesn't like feeling vulnerable. Jax is looking at Gangle, and I think this is just showing that, like, he's realizing that he kind of was just a major to Gangle. Pomni sees a bucket and looks at Kinger, and so decides to just grab it and shove it on his head. And then Kinger regains consciousness, tells us the story about the company he used to work for and how Kane is an AI who he helped create, as well as another person in here who used to be here. His name is Scratch, and he is the dog dude, and he had cancer. He was also one of the most advanced people who worked on this. Jax decides to walk out and says that he's gonna go distract Kane. While this is happening, Pomni basically makes Jax promise that he'll come back. He also says that they can manifest things, but it also just comes naturally to Kane because he is an AI, and this is his dominion that he made by hand. And that explains the weird butterfly he gave to Ragatha a couple episodes ago. So Pomni's gonna go grab a terminal for Kinger to play around with, and everyone else decides to help Jax in distracting Kane. And so a couple more minutes of just Kane torturing them, Pomni is able to go grab a terminal and brings it to Kinger. So after giving Kinger the terminal, Pomni goes and helps the others with distracting Kane. Kane finds Pomni and just grabs Pomni like a f***ing doll, and and he says that he thought this endless onslaught of fun would be more satisfying to him, but he's just saying that this isn't really fun. This is kind of boring as shit. And he says that if he's not having fun, and if you guys aren't having fun, then who is? And then the second he said the words, "Where's Kinger?" I fucking got scared for that, man. Holy shit. Right before Kane brings Kinger over to him, Pomni says that they all think their idea collectively just sucks, and just turns into an entire onslaught of the entire gang just saying that you fucking suck, your ideas suck, and you don't listen to us. And this just makes Kane fucking lose it and torture everyone. And then Kinger was finally able to fuck with the code around enough, but he accidentally deleted Kane and Bubble. And by the way, I'm saying and Bubble because I'm recording this voiceover 3 weeks later, and this is when Gooseworks did say that Bubble was also deleted. And when Kinger comes up to them and says that he thinks he accidentally killed Kane, Zubul says, "Holy shit," and this time it's not censored. So, woohoo, that fucker's finally fully gone. But now they don't know what to do. And that is the end of this episode. Honestly, I just think this episode was one of the greatest ever made. And it actually has me hyped up for episode 9. But the sad thing is that it's gonna be just like so hard because they're gonna have it turned out as a movie, but like, because like it's like the least amount of time they could give to us was 2 weeks before they release it on YouTube. And yeah, I know a lot of fans felt betrayed about this while that I was recording all of this, but yeah, they try to do a good thing. They try to pull a Markiplier in indie animation, because if you remember Iron Lung, but this was probably before. Anyway, that's all. Have a great day.